Welcome to another episode of The Weird Way. You are joining me for another delicious solo cast, and I'm in for a little treat today because I want to dive into the topic of business, money, and the nice guy. And this can also apply to the good girl. And why I'm talking about this as it's been coming up a lot for my clients and a conversation that I feel needs to be had, because for myself, one of the things that really drew me to this work was the possibility of creating a business where I could work for myself and I could do what I loved. That was a key piece of why I wanted to build this. I wanted to be in service. I wanted to do something I was passionate about, and I also wanted to work for myself. And what this meant was that I had to figure out how to handle money, how to make money, and how to be able to develop relationships that could be profitable. And that may be triggering to hear about talking about profit, talking about money, talking about business. And this in itself was what I experienced. I was like, oh, I only want to be of service, and I want to be able to serve people powerfully. And there was an inner conflict that occurred for me in the world of service and receiving. I felt that I couldn't charge the value that I wanted because that would be too much, or it was greedy, and that I wasn't deserving of it. There was some layers of unworth around there, and there was a lot I processed in that world, and I'm sure I'll touch on a lot of it today. But the other piece I wanted to touch on is what we call in the world of relationships covert contracts. And this was something I've really had to unpack within myself in this space of business, was the covert contracts I created within my business. And there was a lot of shadow at play that I was unconscious of, and this took some time for me to really determine what was going on. So for those of you that aren't familiar, what a covert contract is not telling someone that you have an agreement with them and then expecting them to do that. So this often shows up in relationships where, say, a man mows the lawn, and then he might have an expectation that his wife has sex with him. That is a really blunt example, but what can happen in this is he comes back and he doesn't end up having sex. He gets angry, and then it's like, well, you didn't give me what you want. But there was no verbal communication that this was meant to be, and this is what can build up a lot of resentment within relationships and different things like this. Now, how does this relate to business? It happens in the same way. A lot of people come into business and they learn a set of skills. They learn how to do what they think they need to do. And in that doing of that, they should receive something. And so they're not acting from their own sovereignty and choice. So I noticed this in myself in my business when I hired coaches and different people, and they'd tell me to do certain things. And what this created was a set of expectations that if I did what they told me to, I would get the result that they said I would. Now, this was a covert contract with my business, and in that with money as well, but really with my business. And what happened was I built a lot of resentment towards my business, because I was like, why aren't you working? Why aren't you doing what I want you to do? Why aren't you giving me what you want? Because it was covert. Because I was having expectation. I was working from a place of, if I do the right things, if I be a good boy, someone will pat me on the head and then give me what I wanted. So it looked like me playing the pleaser, and it looked like me diminishing who I was and not showing up in my authenticity, because I thought, if I can just please, and this was unconscious, if I can please these people, act nice and be nice, then they will pay me and work with me and I'll be able to coach. And I see this a lot within the industry because people are being coached to do a certain set of things rather than having an empowered belief system and an empowered mindset to make decisions for themselves. And this isn't going to work because at some point there will be resentment that builds up if we're just doing what someone else tells us to all the time. Well, we're going to build resentment towards them because there is a drama triangle playing out here, which is a victim, villain, and rescuer dynamic, which is that, there's a pedestal in effect. So the person being coached is like, tell me what to do, save me, give me the answers. And the other person's like, well, here you go, do these things and I can save you and I can do this. But what eventually happens is the villain eventually appears where it's like, oh, fuck you, you didn't give me what I wanted. Well, this was because there was expectations here. It was because there was unspoken rules of engagement that were covert. And these same covert contracts were then shifted into business and clients and expecting certain results from doing a certain set of behaviors. Now, why this is so big is because there's an archetype of the pleaser. And the pleaser is the one who tries to do the right thing to get a certain result. And this doesn't allow a level of authenticity and authentic leadership. So leadership is magnetic and it draws people in. And there has to be a willingness to be vulnerable and truthful in that to actually create an energetic vortex that draws people in. But if a person is being a pleaser on that subtle energetic realms, this can be felt. And so it actually creates a repulsive force. Because if you're listening to this and I'm like, I need something from you, I really need this, can you give me all of this? But I'm like coming at you with a really needy energy, you're probably going to be like, yo, Dean, hold on, step away, push me away, and it's not going to feel good for anyone. And so this is a big thing that to lead, we must be willing to go first. To lead, we must be willing to be seen. To lead, we must be willing to step into the spotlight. And to lead, we also must be willing to make our own choices. So this is a big difference when it comes to coaching, is we can ask for advice, reflections, feedback, and in that make our own decisions from a sovereign and empowered state rather than being like, oh, okay, cool, you tell me what to do and I'm going to get results because of that. Use it, test it, try it, see if it works for you, and if not, throw it away. You have your own journey to go on, and this is where I want to speak into business as a path for soul. No one else can tell you what your soul's journey is like. There's a thread for you to follow. You can learn from others, gain their experience and wisdom, and then apply it to your own situation. But if you believe that that is going to be the answer without taking on an empowered mindset, and then looking at, oh, is this working for me? Reflecting, did that work for me? Then you'll stay within the same frame and the same disempowered state. This is about empowerment. This is about choice, sovereignty, and allowing oneself to become the leader. And so if a person chooses to lead and they're out there leading from a place of purpose, and like right now, this is where I'm creating from. In the past, it was from a place of pleaser. I'm going to give people what they want so they can, eventually work with me. And there was a lot of covert stuff. And that meant trying to do what was right to get likes, to grow my fin, rather than being like, oh, what do I want to create and what do I want to give? What do I see is needed within this world and how can I create it? So at the moment, that is talking a lot about this, like business, soul, relationship. They're all paths that I'm looking at for the growth of the individual, because ultimately that's what I want, is more people living in their soul aligned life and building their unique visions, because I see that if each person is situated in their unique place within the tapestry of life, we build a beautiful fucking tapestry, and that's what I desire. And so in the past, I was really scared to step into that, and it diminished me. But now where I'm at, I'm leading from that place, and it means maybe I've cut away a lot of my pleaser energy, and it's felt more empowering. It's meant I'm moving in a direction, and it's also made me more magnetic. It's allowed me to be less directed by something outside of myself. So in the past, what would happen if my money started decreasing, or my level of income, or the level of clients coming in, what would happen? I went into a reactive state of like, oh, this is happening. I need to fix this. I need to change this. And money became my priority. It became my purpose instead of my actual purpose, which is something bigger than money. And so there was no longer any energetic vortex. It became a repulsive force. I'd love if I could do a diagram, but the way I see it is we have a singular column called purpose, which is our direction, our path for our life. And beside that, we have other important factors such as relationship and money. And if either of them become our true purpose, and I've done this before as a nice guy, my relationship became my purpose, and this actually self-sabotaged the purpose because I kept trying to fix it instead of following my own path and being in my power, because when we are on our own purpose, we are in our power, and that is magnetic. It means, yes, other things are important. If you're not bringing in money, you can't be on purpose. Like, we live in a world where that's not possible unless you've got a system or a structure where you're getting fed, you're getting housed, and you can still maintain on purpose. But I believe it's an important element, but it is not the thing. So what I would do in the past when I was more in scarcity is that I made money the thing. It's like, oh, if I can just make this amount of money, I can survive and I can get there, and then I can do the things, and then I can go back to my vision. And it put me in a constant chase because I was chasing money. I was like, yeah, I just need to make you, I need to get you, I need to do that. And I was in a constant chase. And like, if you think about that in terms of a relationship, if a man's ever like that with a woman, well, it feels kind of repulsive on my end. That's my perspective. If I was to constantly chase a woman and like, I need you, I want to get you, and you're like my everything, I view that as codependency and unhealthy. And this was the same as relationship with money. And if you haven't noticed, I view relationship with money as very much relationship as an intimate relationship. And so what I did, and what I believe everyone needs to do, is actually shift back onto aligning themselves with their purpose and focusing on this, of moving towards where they want to go and putting all of their energy into this. So this may be scary because it means letting go of some of the things that maybe kind of worked, but it never felt like it was getting there. So I had a lot of habits that my coaches told me to do because I thought I had to do, and it kept me in a paradigm of I've got to work really fucking hard to make money and build business and all of this, and it kept me there rather than saying, oh, if I continue on my purpose and choose, like consciously know where I'm getting pulled and what I'm getting pulled to create, and allowing that to move through me, that will create an energetic vortex that will both allow relationship and money to come in and magnetize towards me as I continue on my path, and require actually less effort because I'm moving towards something greater than myself, and I'm continuing on. I'm not pausing to be like, oh, do I have enough money for that? No, there's been moments where I haven't had money and I've committed to something that's gone beyond my budget, or I didn't have the money at the time. And I'm not recommending this, but I'm using this as an example. Like, I did a photo shoot and I hadn't had the money for that at that time, but I knew I would make it after doing it. So I did the photo shoot, because I knew that was the next step for me and needed to do. And the next thing I know, money came to me because I was moving on the direction and the path set out for me. And this comes to a level of discernment, attunement, and a rawness with ourselves of being like, cool, what do I know the next step to be? Am I allowing myself to move in that? And if not, on some level, on an energetic level, we will be blocking ourselves, because the world isn't just like mental. It's not just what I do affects it. No, the internal reality, your vibration, what you're operating on the inside affects your external reality. So through change in this and bringing awareness here, it allows something more to emerge. And this is what happened for myself as I've focused on what I've wanted to create, like this podcast, my YouTube channel, my Facebook community, like, and posting in a way that I found that it gets less engagement. Like, it hasn't appealed to as many people. And I've noticed in that there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, I'm not getting everything I want. I'm not getting as many likes. And it's just an aspect of myself that wants validation and love. And it's been a lesson to bring that to myself, but it's appealed more directly to the people that I want to serve and I want to support. And this has allowed me to take on more people that have felt in alignment with me. And it's because I'm moving in my own direction and moving in the way that feels right for me. And it means I've got better boundary. It means I'm focusing on what I need, what I want, what I desire. And the rest has come to me as a result, because now I am an energetic match for that which I desire. And yes, an aspect is money, but that's not an only desire. Like, I desire to do this work. I desire to share in this way, teach and contribute to be of service to the world. And I've become the version of me that is an energetic match for that. So naturally, my reality has shifted into that. And you would have listened to the last episode, and if you haven't, go back to that. But this is what a lot of the psycho-spiritual death is that I talked about in the last episode. It's about releasing a lot of these old conditions and structures that would keep us stuck in these old ways. And this is, for me, why I'm talking about business as a pathway for soul, because one of the reasons is I see business as a vehicle to create collective change. Like, if we are to look at the world right now and acknowledge that there is things that can change and improve and grow and be better enough, and the paradox that everything is perfect, but also acknowledging the pain and suffering in the world. And I believe that through business, people can create change. I know through business, I've created change in my own life. I've served others to create change in theirs. And this has a ripple that goes out to create a more soul-aligned way of life with other people who are also on this path of soul. And they affect people, and it continues to ripple out. And so when I say business as a path for soul, I mean that because it is a vehicle, not the only vehicle. You can say relationship, spirituality, they're all one and the same in many different aspects. But I believe we also have a unique medicine to serve this world. Like, each of us has something to give. It's like we're a big jigsaw, and each person has a jigsaw piece, which is themselves, and they're here to give that to the world. And if we can find a way for each person to be able to do that sustainably and efficiently and effectively, they can give their medicine to the world. And business allows that, because it allows them to create a lifestyle that can then allow them to give in a way that they receive, but others also receive. That's what I do as a coach. I get to give to others, and I also receive, and that allows a shift to occur. And so when a person continues to follow their own path and they let go of the covert contracts that they may have towards money, because they may have like things, if like even for myself going into this new level of service and giving, like, I know that on some energetic level, the more I give, the more I receive. but there's also, I've had to detach from any expectation of that, because otherwise I would put pressure on, say, this episode of this podcast, and that would mean I would limit myself, because now there's pressure. Now there's like a contraction within my being, and instead of allowing it to flow through me. And this allows an openness, and this allows a freedom to just be in the creation. And so this is my recommendation, to really let go of the expectation, but follow our path true, follow what we're called to, where we're moving towards, and just listen, pause, and see where you're being called. Because each of us does have that path, and it's important to follow, because that is what we're here for. We're here for that. And there's so much to this, involving the money game, involving like relationships and all of that. And that will come when we live in alignment. And this is the nuance. Alignment isn't like a lot of what spirituality determines as flow and just being. Like it requires doing, but from a place of an integrated being, where the doing is our being. And this creates all the difference. And like alignment may look at times uncomfortable. If you're in coaching, if you're in any of that, it may mean looking at marketing and figuring out how to market and sell and build relationships and rapport and all of that. That can be in alignment with your goals, with your vision. I know along my journey, things like that have confronted me, because it's like, oh, that's part of this, right? That is actually in alignment for me to learn. Like at the moment, I'm about to, in a couple of weeks, do a speaker training, and that is so uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. On stage, what am I doing? I love speaking, but then in front of people, it scares me. And that's why I know I have to do it, because there's this uncomfortability, and I know that offers new growth. So this is a piece where it's like, okay, our purpose may at times trigger, confront, and challenge us, and we need to follow that. So this is going to be the end of this, talking about all the things, money, business, nice guy, and a few other things and tangents as always. If you've got anything from this, if you've got any questions, or if you've had any insight, let me know. Share to your profiles. Let other people receive this medicine as well. And I'm saying this directly, so that isn't a covert contract, and I like to operate in that way. If you want to know more, you can contact me on Instagram at the Dean Bentley. Have a beautiful day. Dean Bentley signing out.